Hi, my name is Darrell. I want to take this time to really share a little bit about my own personal story. I want to tell a story about growing up Black and queer within the A.M.E. church. Growing up in the A.M.E. church as a Black queer kid was complex. One hand, I felt really supported in my racial identity and really grew in my understanding of race, racism, and the history of enslavement in this country. On the other hand, when it came to understanding and exploring sexuality within the AME church, it was actually severely lacking. I grew up within a small AME church in Baltimore City, and for the most part, it was a really loving and affirming space. For many years, I was able to do and to live and to exist in an environment that was absolutely nothing but caring and compassionate. That all changed when a new pastor came, and she brought with her very strong anti-gay, anti-LGBT beliefs. I remember this one incident where we went to prayer breakfast, and this time I was in deep despair and feeling all sorts of shame. And so when they called for prayer, I went up, wanting someone to lay hands on me, to fix me. I remember laying there on the floor, almost floating over my body, watching what was happening to me. I remember feeling such terror and fear that these people who I love deeply were trying to cast something out of me that was not there. There was no spirit of homosexuality. It was just me, with my natural human desires. I remember this one incident, leaving church and feeling completely dejected and alone. I got home and I went to my sister's room to pray, asking God for clarity to take this sin away from me. And I heard nothing. So I got up, tears running down my face, not really being able to see because the tears would not stop rolling. I stumbled into the kitchen on that night. It must have been around midnight. And I reach into the drawer and I pull out a knife. And I remember lifting up the knife and putting it to my right wrist and sort of praying fervently, asking God to take this away from me. That if I was his child, to take this shame and this guilt away from me that I all of a sudden started feeling because of the hostility within my congregation. And there was nothing. And just as I was beginning to push the knife against my skin, to feel the serrated edges moving forward and backward on my flesh, I stopped myself. It was at that moment that I decided that if there was nothing, if there was only this darkness, that I would somehow survive and sort of persist anyway. And I remember that night immediately dropping that knife, putting away the pills, and getting on a hotline and calling. And I remember getting on that hotline and calling someone to ask for them to just understand me. And I'm not sure who that person was on that other line. And I'm deeply appreciative for them listening to me for several hours at night because they saved my life. I spent the last 12 years healing from that trauma. I've been in therapy. I've been doing deep personal exploration of my places of trauma and hurt and really trying to find people in spaces that can love me and affirm me. I've spent years trying to fill the vacancy that I thought I had. I made this video to let everybody know, particularly those within the A.M.E. tradition, that there is a cost. That there was a cost to my emotional, mental, and spiritual development. That the cost was so great that I almost committed suicide because of the theology that was being taught. I began to think that when someone was hurting me, that that was actually love. And I've spent the last 12 years trying to undo that logic. Love doesn't cause pain. Love doesn't hurt. Love doesn't traumatize. Love doesn't leave you feeling vacant or void. It doesn't tell you that you're not enough. Love lets you know that you're affirmed, that you're taken care of, that you're loved and you're supported. It nurtures, it heals, it restores, it does not destroy. And I've learned that over the last 12 years. I'm a survivor of the A.M.E. church. I'm a survivor of bad Christian theology that perpetuates oppression against LGBT folks. I'm a proud member of both Unity Fellowship Church as well as the City of Refuge Church. I made this video to share a little bit about my own personal experience being Black and queer within the A.M.E. church. But more importantly, I made it to let them know that there is a material consequence for teaching the types of theology that shames LGBT folks. And that theology that is shaming us is actually also killing us. And so I just wanted to put that out there for all those folks who are listening to encourage them to, one, either take heed and know that you are more than enough. And then to also for the folks who are out there who are advocates to really put pressure on the A.M.E. leadership and the lay folks to have a different type of dialogue around engaging in healthy understandings of sexual development and human identity development.